Good evening. Town of Los Gatos council meeting is called to order. And thank you for joining us on a rainy night. We have a number of items on the agenda, and we're going to take the agenda a little bit differently in that we will do the consent items, but then we'll take item number 8 and then item number 9. So with that, maybe we could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Esta?
Here.
Councilmember Rennie?
Here.
Councilmember Badami?
Here.
Vice Mayor Moore?
Here.
Mayor Hudis?
Here. Terrific. So the first thing is, I believe, our Pledge of Allegiance. And tonight, asked Councilmember Rennie to lead us in the pledge. Thank you, and a reminder, if anyone in the community would like some young person to lead the pledge, we're always taking volunteers for that. So it's a great opportunity to come up, and we like to honor our young folks who lead us in the pledge. So the first thing we have tonight is verbal communications. Actually, no, we're going to do consent items first. And the consent items are in the agenda, items number 1 through 8. I'm going to use my prerogative to pull number 8 and to hear that immediately after the other items. So with regard to the consent items, do we have any comments or questions from the council on the consent items? Okay, any verbal communications related to consent? I have one card here. Rachel Hinojosa would like to speak.
About the
The microphone isn't
Okay.
working, or you're...
Okay, I'm just not, I don't have my face in it.
There we go.
I thought it was going to be loud enough. So I have a concern, and it's coming from the real world application of a property owner in the town. So my family owns the Bonnie View Mobile Home Park that is off of Oka Road. And what I foresee that you are changing, trying to change the ordinance to is to the state ordinance, which is kind of doing away with the need for overflow or open space parking, visitor parking, and reducing the parking for units. So 0 to 1, 0 to 1 would be 1 car parking, 2 to 3 households, 2 to 3 bedroom households would be 1.5 car parking, and 4 bedrooms or more would be 2.5 car parking. So I have 71 units, and that equals 130 some odd tenants. Out of my complex, there are 164 cars. So every tenant of mine has 2 car parking. I have 30 guest spaces. Across the way from us, parallel, is that little strip that is by the Swin Racket Club. That has 10 plus spaces. In my complex, at any given point, there is no guest parking because it's all taken by tenants. And they're not breaking any laws. They're multi-generational households. They're people with college students. There are people with high school students, with grandparents that live with them. So there's a need for those extra vehicles. My concern is now the people are parking in areas where they shouldn't. I've had to invent parking spaces around the park. So today I spoke to Dina, who's up at the Gardens, the apartment complex, the Gardens. She's having the same exact problem. All of the cars that are lining Oka are tenant parking. right? So I feel that, and when she had explained to me what's happening is that cars are being sandwiched in, they're parking in red zones, they're blocking driveways, they're making it almost impossible on that narrow street to see around when you have to pull in and out of something. So I urge you to reconsider that and think about the real world application and what a typical household is, and kind of dial back the need for the need and the greed, I guess, for trying to go up and take away what people really need. And the people who are here now are going to have to pay the price for your inability to pass the housing element on time, right? And that trickles down to a lot of different factors. So I hope that you can reconsider that, changing that ordinance, and it not being at the expense of the people who live in town, because there's going to be a lot that is proposed in such a short amount of space. All right, thank you.
Are there any questions for Ms. Hinojosa? I will be pulling this item also because any time that there's something that needs to be discussed that's on consent, we will pull it. It will be heard immediately after we finish with the other consent items. Okay, thank you. Any other comments on consent? Any online?
There's one hand raised. Rich
Okay.
Stevens.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Stevens.
Yes, hi. This is Rich Stevens. I apologize for not being there in person tonight. I also request that item 4, amending Chapter 29 zoning regulations of the town code regarding parking standards, be pulled from the consent items, as it would be overwhelming to our community. I feel the issue needs far more communication. We do not have good access to public transportation at all. I worked 24 years on the peninsula, Redwood City, Redwood Shores, then San Mateo. Much of Silicon Valley would be very similar. The commute using public transportation required taking a bus to light rail, to Caltrain, then another bus. This took more than 2 hours and cost $20 each way. With that, I drove my car. So to back up what the previous speaker said, we do not have the ability to get out of our cars from Los Gatos to travel outside of Los Gatos in any adequate way. Without sufficient access to public transportation, which I don't expect in my lifetime, ample parking on site supporting at least one car per bedroom, plus ample guest parking, should absolutely be mandatory for developers. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other online questions or online comments about our consent items?
We have another hand raised. Jim.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yes, and just to amplify what Rachel said, any of you can just go to Oka Road any time of the day, any day, 24/7. Go down Oka Road, and you will find cars along the streets and by the apartments, and here by the mobile home park, and by the Las Casas Swim Racket Club. So it is definitely a real world concern. And all you need to do is, when you're in North Las Gatos, just drive down that road and you'll see what I mean. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on our consent items?
There are no more hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. Comments? Yes, Councilmember Risto.
I'd like to make a motion. I move to approve consent items 1 through 3 and 5 through 7.
Second.
Rennie seconds. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes unanimously. So now we will move to item 4. We've taken public comment during the consent items. So now we'll just move to, yeah, we should do that first. Yeah, no problem. Let's just do regular verbal communications. So this is for anyone who'd like to speak on anything that is not on the agenda. I do have a few cards here. Looks like several different topics. Some seem to be the same organization, so I'll take those together. And we'll start, each person will have 3 minutes. And the first one is Jariah Haug. Maybe I've got that right, I don't know. But
Got it perfect. All right, good evening, Town Council. Good evening, Mayor Hudas and Vice Mayor Moore. My name is Jariah Haug, and I'm the Associate Director of Care Policy with Working Partnerships USA and also the primary coordinator for the Build the Future campaign. The Build the Future campaign is co-chaired by County Supervisor Ellenberg and Working Partnerships Executive Director Maria Noel. Our campaign is fighting for affordable childcare and raising the wages of our childcare providers. Childcare is unaffordable, and we wanted to come here tonight to ask the town of Los Gatos to pass a childcare resolution to learn more about the importance of childcare and how it can really help support the families, children, and childcare providers in Los Gatos. Affordable childcare bolsters the local economy by providing families the opportunity to pursue their career goals while giving their children quality care. Los Gatos alone has over 3,000 children, according to census.gov, and these children are under 9 years old, meaning hundreds of families may need childcare. Families should not have to choose between their career or whether or not their child will get quality care. We need childcare in order to ensure that our families have this economic stability. This resolution has actually been passed in 12 cities now across Santa Clara County, which is the vast majority of Santa Clara County already, most recently in the city of Sunnyvale just last month, and we also passed it in Los Altos, and they use this resolution as a platform to create a subcommittee of a potential childcare subsidy program so that families can afford childcare. So this resolution is not the end, it is the beginning of a conversation to see where the town of Los Gatos can fit in and support our families, our children, and our childcare providers. And so I just wanted to pop by, say hello, and open that conversation. I'm available over email, and we have a couple of volunteers tonight to talk more about childcare. So thank you.
thank you. Anyone have a question? I do. So I'm looking forward to seeing the resolution, understanding it. Has there been any discussion about funding for childcare either at the county level or the state level that pertains to the resolution?
Yeah, so childcare is partially funded by the state and the county, but then there are opportunities where towns and cities can take a step in and ask, like, what can we do to support our childcare providers, like as a city or as a town in your case? And some of that can include like helping promote our childcare providers. I was speaking with a childcare provider here in Los Gatos, and they have slots, but they don't have great marketing skills. These are small local businesses, and so they don't have that kind of business savvy. And so a lot of these folks would just love like local support. They do get subsidies from the county level and primarily the state level. The county does not have that ongoing funding source, but there may be conversations in the future, but it's primarily subsidized slots coming from the state level.
Thank you. Next card I have is Durga Uchariya. Sorry.
Good evening.
And I'm sure I got that wrong, so why don't you correct me on how to pronounce your name?
Acharya, Durga Acharya.
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor Hudas and Town Council member. My name is Durga, and I am a child care provider with the Build the Future campaign. Please pass a resolution to support child care and build the future Santa Clara County. We passed this resolution in 12 other cities already to support our children, family, and child care provider. As a child care provider, it is hard to make ends meet. We are not babysitter. We are early educator who are teaching our next generation of leaders. It is hard to live in this county because many of us struggle to afford the cost of living here. Our workforce is dominated by women of color, and we have historically been an underpaid group. We also still need to fight for paid sick leave, better healthcare insurance, and retirement options. This is why we need your support. Local governments can support local childcare providers by promoting our business, exploring policy that help everyone afford childcare, and letting the public know you care about our struggle. Please agendize a resolution to support childcare in Los Gatos soon and join the rest of Santa Clara County in promoting affordable childcare for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Claire Baines.
Hello, Mayor Hughes and Honorable Town Council members. My name is Claire, and I'm also volunteering with Build the Future. I'm here to ask that Los Gatos pass a resolution in support of childcare and Build the Future Santa Clara County to join the 12 other cities across Santa Clara County. Affordable, high-quality childcare is crucial for the future success and growth of our children. Children that have childcare are shown to do better in school later in life and are able to have more full childhoods overall. Childcare can benefit children by enabling them to build social and emotional skills as well as boost their own self-confidence around other children. Towns and cities are able to support our local businesses and childcare providers by promoting policies that help our families. Towns like Los Gatos can help market and promote local childcare providers so that they can enroll more children. Towns can also encourage local businesses to have childcare as a benefit to their employees. Childcare is something that helps everyone in their community. Please join the 12 other cities in Santa Clara County to pass a resolution in support of childcare. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Sean McCormick.
Hello, Mayor Hudis and honorable city or town council members. My name is Sean, and I'm also a volunteer with Build the Future. And we are here tonight to ask that Los Gatos pass a resolution in support of childcare and Build the Future Santa Clara County. Join the other 12 cities that have also already done so. Passing this resolution will let Los Gatos join the movement to advocate for affordable childcare. Childcare is an economic engine for local cities because it enables workers to not have to choose between their children and their career. According to the study from Ready Nation, the nationwide economy is losing out an estimated $122 billion a year. Businesses lose $1,640 on average for each working parent due to lost revenue and hiring costs because of insufficient childcare, which is $23 billion annually. Governments lose funding as well. There is about $21 billion in lost income and sales tax revenues every year, or $1,470 less per working parent, because parents without enough childcare earn less, making them consume less in their communities. Please agendize a resolution to support childcare in Los Gatos soon, and join the rest of Santa Clara County in promoting affordable childcare for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I did have a question. Are you working, or your organization working with Los Gatos Saratoga Recreation, who I believe is the largest childcare provider in Los Gatos, either on the resolution or on ideas for expanding childcare?
As of right now, we currently are not.
Okay, thank you. I would, if this does come forward, that may be something you might want to consider. Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Angela Bowles-King, Verbal Communications.
You guys, all three of my kids had childcare. They all made it through college, master's degrees. That's where it starts. Thank you very much. I'm here tonight to speak about the firehouse. I feel very strongly about this. I moved here in 1968 because it was a charming town, and I don't want to see it lost. Diane Ogilvy was my first landlady, and she was a big believer in maintaining the character of our town. If you allow the firehouse to stay, there are capable people willing, able, and ready to refurbish it and put it to good use for organizations that will contribute to our town. And we need more of that. Really, we do. There's ample parking right there. And I'm a nervous wreck right now, so I don't want to forget anything that I wanted to tell you about. People come to our town every weekend. They flood it. We need those tax dollars. They are the basis of our community. And without the charm, we're going to look like everybody else. There's already too many large big box stores coming in, and you know that's not a good thing. We need the tourism. That was okay. When Diane Ogilvy took down Siam Restaurant, she put up that beautiful hotel that we now have directly across the street. I am horrified that to even think that what's going to happen when they take down the firehouse. I've seen the sketches of the buildings that they're going to put up in place of the post office, in place of Ace Hardware. I'm mortified. I don't want to look like downtown Phoenix or Los Angeles or even lovely San Jose. We are Los Gatos. Please leave the firehouse. The veterans could use it. Our lovely Lions Club, the Rotary Club, so many other service industries, they could use it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I had a question. Thank you.
Hi there.
So there was a council action regarding the firehouse and its and the future for it.
Yeah.
Are you aware that the historic designation for that building has not changed?
Well, I'm late to the party, I confess. I heard that it was going to be on the chopping block, and panic went through me, and I just said, well, I think I maybe need to go downtown and speak up. So here I am, speaking up. Please don't do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Gus who?
Hi guys. This is for Valentine's Day because it's coming up in 10 days, and I'm always here look more complaining than not. I mean, just saying my beef, and I'm not a public speaker. But also got some kisses stole. So this says share. So that's for coming up to. The paper had the water agency on page 6. I sent you an article. I have basically 4 topics that I always bring up. The water bill's rising. I think the town has to get behind. I grew up in Santa Clara. They had their own electrical and water things, and it's something that needs to be discussed amongst people that it's that California's not doing the right thing by the communities, and there's a lot of water. I only used 5 cc's or 5 things though for 2 months, and it's it's outrageous bill, and the farmers are just and everybody else pay your. I believe in paying your fair share, and not we have an inch line. We can't even get it reduced and stuff. That was on page 6. On page 16, there's March Madness, Super Bowl, and World Cup that I sent in, and there's a lot of money at stake, and I think that you, as a town, have to put some money into the pot before to get some of that out. And I brought that up a lot of times. I'm a big soccer person, and I have some ideas. Another thing was Lynn Avenue. I gave you a picture right here. That's what actually brought me in to this a year and a half ago. I wasn't really good at this, but the easement issue in Lynn, and that issue, I think we need a yellow. The liability is supposed to be on for kids to walk down that street is unsafe. And you need lighting, and you need like a yellow brick road. And I've talked to a resident there that, says that this has been going on for years and years and years. And, they just throw up their hands because of all this stuff. And I'm just trying to push it through. Those are my issues. This is for the whole town. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for speaking. That's the last comment that we have on verbal. So I'm going to move on now to we have one more. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to give all glory to God, for he is so good. It is absolutely amazing to be alive at this time. With Trump destroying the criminal networks around the globe, we will all be benefiting, even the haters who have been projecting their demonic hate on those of us who choose God's love. I was privileged in attending the last Trump rally at the Capital One Arena in D.C. the day before Trump's historical inauguration, and even had a chance to schmooze with Eric Adams, the New York mayor, while dressing in gown for the multicultural ball. The entire experience will be forever impressed into my memories. When I returned to my hometown of Los Gatos, I found myself feeling depressed and angry. I knew I was returning to a town whose previous town councils were willing to do what they were told to do by people who didn't live here and didn't care about us. They ignored the needs of their own constituents. They helped the tyrants persuade us to live in fear and give up our rights, our money, and sometimes our lives. Today, we are finally seeing the real criminals that have been hiding in plain sight. They told us they needed our money for some project that would be good for everybody. In reality, no one benefited but those taking the money. It looks like Trump is ending the era of criminals ruling our lives for their good. Mayor Hudes, I implore you to make the necessary changes that will make Los Gatos great again. Please put the people who currently live in Los Gatos first. Please clean up the streets and sidewalks and erase all symbols of sodomy and perversions. Please create a family-friendly atmosphere, not an adult party zone. Please choose virtue over vice. Please reject the racism, sexism, and all discrimination that was always at the forefront of Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ and DEI, and unfortunately also the Listen, Learn, Change, Grow campaign that we see on the mural on University Avenue. It is an unnecessary distraction from what is more important. Too many families in Los Gatos have been torn apart, destroyed because of the lies forced on us. These ideologies are meant to hurt all of us in the end, and it will if we let it continue. Like I said previously, DEI spells die, and it is dead. Thank God and thanks to Trump and all good Americans who knew better, who knew right from wrong. Let us never go back to the insanities we witnessed over the last 8 years. Mr. Hudes, please clean up our town and make Los Gatos great again. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online for verbal communications?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. That last card, is that verbal? Mr. Feinberg? Yeah, I have your card. It looks like it pertains to item number 9. Let me just double check that, make sure I have it in the right place. It said Los Gatos Meadows. Is that correct? Yeah, that's item number 9. So, thank you. Okay, one more verbal. Mr. Fago.
Good evening, Lee Fago. Not representing any group, speaking as an individual, longtime resident, almost 30 years in the town of Los Gatos. I began living here on Oka Road in an apartment complex there, and that was about 29 years ago. And I am very concerned with the development that is being proposed on Oka Road. It's going to be, I think it's 138 new housing units in there. It's going to add to the congestion of traffic and a safety issue because there's only one way in, one way out onto Lark Avenue for any emergency vehicles or for people to exit. And as you heard earlier this evening, with the traffic congestion that's already there, that's very evident, it is a safety issue. And Santa Clara County Fire requires that if there's 150 housing units or more, that there be a second alternative way in and out. This is just under that threshold. Nonetheless, given the amount of housing that's already there, the amount of commercial space that's already there, the JCC with its activities that are going on all the time, that is a potential hazard. And that is something that I think the council needs to address and deal with so that you will not be allowing such a development to go in unless an alternative outlet is developed at the other end of Oka, where it goes underneath the freeway, underneath 85, comes out on the other side, but it doesn't connect to anything. Perhaps there would be a way requiring the developer to do that so that there would be a safety route in and out to that site. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have any online?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, so I'll close verbal communications and we'll go to item number 4. Now, since we covered item number 4 in the January 21st meeting, the council voted on it, and this tonight is to adopt the ordinance resulting from it. I suggest that we keep the discussion and comments to items that were raised tonight in our comments on the consent calendar. So would staff like to address that?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. I can be very brief relative to the changes that are in the ordinance up for adoption tonight that pertain to the properties that were mentioned this evening. The ordinance would eliminate guest parking town-wide, which is one thing the town committed to through program, the Housing Element Implementation Program. The ordinance would also reduce the parking requirement for multifamily residential developments, but only within a half-mile walking distance of public transportation. The town, in the draft ordinance, has defined public transportation pursuant to definitions in state law as a high-quality transit corridor or a major transit stop. As a reminder, there are no major transit stops in the town and only one limited area served by a high-quality transit corridor located along Bascom Avenue and Samaritan. So a limited number of properties would be impacted that. The properties referenced this evening during verbal communications would not be impacted. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions from council members? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, 2 questions that both came up as they're raised in the verbal comments. So one is, and I think I asked this last time, but just to clarify, does this item comply with state law and just do what state law requires is the first question. And then second, there was a comment about us having to do this because we missed the deadline for the housing element. Does this have anything to do with missing the deadline for the housing element?
Thank you for that question. I can start, and if Director Paulson wants to support, happy to have that. Relative to whether these changes comply with state law, I would say that they're responsive to the commitments made in our certified housing element, which was adopted by HCD, a state level agency. And I will defer to Director Paulson on the second piece.
Thank you, Joel Paulson, Community Development Director. To the second question, no, this is an implementation program required by the state, and so it had no bearing on what we're dealing with now with builder's remedy and other issues.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. Any other clarifying questions? Okay, I'm going to open item 4 to public comment to anyone who hasn't already spoken on this topic. Anyone here? Anyone online?
We have one hand raised.
Okay.
Lena?
Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Lana Gerasimova, and I'm a current resident on Oka Road. I just want to add to the previous gentleman's comment about having a public transportation within 1.5 miles and on those transit corridors. I just want to add that this is inequality. That just doesn't work, because I used to be a student at West Valley College, and when I didn't have a car, it would take me 1.5 hours to get to the bus station, then drive to another bus station, then take another bus. So I just double checked, and it would still take me 1.5 hours to get to West Valley College. So this is just inadequate. Yes, it is. We have this corridor within 1.5 miles, but to go to West Valley College for students and back, it would take 3 hours, whereas by the car, it would just take 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else online? Okay. Back to the council. We'll close the public comment. Any questions or ideas or motion from council members? Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. I did have a question for staff because I just wanted to clarify. So, I mean, I can sympathize with the last speaker. I've used public transit and there's long connection times. In terms of Oka Road, is that on a high transit corridor or a high quality transit corridor?
Thank you for that question. Currently, as VTA service is provided, it is not located on a high quality transit corridor.
Okay, so my understanding is that pretty much none of the town will have to, these changes that we're doing along high quality transit corridors, we have these changes made. We don't really have the corridor. So if and when service gets better, it could then take effect. But we're saying that we're adopting this and it's only going to affect an itty bitty tiny corner, maybe near Samaritan, where there actually is a short headway bus route. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So it doesn't impact any other part of town?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Badami.
I don't have a question. I can make a comment for the public. Okay. If you missed the last meeting where we discussed this, I navigate Alberta Way daily, and it's a nightmare with the number of cars that are parked on a very narrow, winding road. We kind of have our hands tied behind our back where we have to comply with state law. So I was a council member, and I believe it was a unanimous vote by council to comply with law and with the HCD. So with that, I hope the public understands. It's difficult for all of us, but I would be prepared to adopt the ordinance unless we have further comments.
Go ahead.
Okay. I move to adopt an ordinance in Attachment 1, amending Chapter 29 of the zoning regulations of the Town Code regarding parking standards pursuant to Implementation Program AA of the 2023 through 2031 housing element.
Second?
Second.
Vice Mayor. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. We'll now move to item number 8 that was pulled, and let me explain this. So we have a very active community of volunteers who participate in our commissions and boards and committees, and they work through staff in proposing a work plan for their various commissions and committees. And so this is the opportunity for the council to review the work plans that have been produced with staff's input. And so I wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity for anyone to comment on it or to discuss anything about the work plans. And so I asked, at least for this session, to pull that item so that we could look at them. And I believe we have several work plans tonight in front of us. So it's the Library Board, the Arts and Culture Commission, the Complete Streets and Transportation Commission, and the Finance Commission. And so with that, I would ask, probably we maybe just go to questions about that. If council members have any comments or questions about, to clarify anything about the work plans. So I had one, and so we've initiated a new process where, we've changed our process a little bit where, and to be more consistent across all the commissions and to make sure that there's adequate staff support for the commissions. And so my question is, the work plans that we have in front of us, the four, are they consistent with the work plans that were reviewed by those commissions? And if not, was lack of staff capacity one of the reasons why the staff recommendation might have been different than what was recommended? Just asking the question, I don't know the details of it, but it would be good to understand that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Originally, this was going to be heard as another business item in the case that the staff recommendation did not align with what the commissions had recommended. In fact, these do align with the requests of those commissions. Staff did a wonderful job, and some of them are here, working with the commission to help refine and define the specifics of what they wanted to put on the work plan. And the most important aspect of those work plans are we're asking residents to spend a tremendous amount of time volunteering and advising the council. And we wanted to help focus them on their efforts to get through the year and be productive, and to also ensure that staff capacity was there to assist them.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to open this for public comment, and then we'll go back to the council. Anyone wish to comment on the work plans? Okay, back to council. Are there any questions or comments on the specific work plans? Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate that you pulled this item, Mayor Hudes. In the past, we've often had our commissions come forward and describe their work plan for the year. And whether there were changes or not, I think it's helpful to the community who can't always attend all the commission meetings to hear what our commissions are doing, how they align with council priorities, and just it also improves engagement among the community, and you might find a commission that you're interested in. But without going through all the items in there, I just had a couple comments on each work plan, if I could
go ahead.
Make some short comments. First of all, on the library work plan, I mean, I appreciate our library. It's a place of intellectual and emotional refuge. It's a gathering place for our community. The way our library has evolved beyond books to seed libraries, book discussions, knitting groups, just covers the gamut of things. It's almost a community center of its own. Among the work plan, the thing I found interesting was the update necessitated by AB 781, accessibility to emergency centers, persons with pets. And then it did occur to me that our library, with its backup power, is not only a warming center, it can be a place during a power outage, and we now have to align with whether people have pets if they're taking refuge there. So I thought that was an interesting highlight of another function our library serves. For the Arts and Culture Commission, so many good, great projects that were started a while ago, but the ones that stuck out to me were the continuation of the outside the box, utility box art wrap. I noticed in Los Gatos that the beautiful artwork that we have painted on the utility boxes, I mean, this necessary thing, this beige box that shows up around town, now is suddenly a format for public art that kind of makes you smile, reflects maybe the area or some value of our community, and I love the way that's been put on. I feel like Los Gatos was possibly on the leading edge of that, because I really noticed them in Los Gatos before I saw them spreading to other communities. And I think this is a really great, accessible way that we can get art to the public. Art in the council chambers, I am so grateful. Before the pandemic, we had art in our council chambers on the walls all the time. And after we came back, we had bare walls for a couple of years. And it's just really wonderful to have art up here to, that reflects our community. And it appears we'll have that changing, 4 times? It's going to change quarterly, I think. So thank you to the Arts Commission for that. And then finally, the Gateway Project, which I know that has strong emotions around. Not everybody loves the origami cats. However, I get a lot of comments about how great it is that we've got this specific style of cat that's showing up in different parts of town, and it'll kind of unify our different gateways. It was a great project that the Arts Commission initiated. There was a broad casting for artists. They narrowed it down to 3 finalists. There were scaled up versions that were on display, I think in the library for 2 months, that were at a meeting in council chambers. I remember attending it, and every resident could vote on it by showing up and looking at it. So it was one of those things that you're never going to come up with something that makes everyone happy, but the process was great and the outcome is really wonderful. There are other issues they're doing, that are other topics that other people may want to comment on. For the Complete Streets and Transportation, or Complete Streets, and Transportation Commission, great things. I think one of the things that I'm most impressed with is their bus pass program, where they've had an ad hoc that's working, I think, with Community Health and Senior Services to get seniors out to learn how to ride the bus, because this is a community where people didn't grow up riding a bus, and kind of demystify that process, go out to lunch together, and hopefully use the bus to get around town. We may not have the best headways or connections outside of town, but we do have a bus that hits our major corridors. And the goal of this program is also to extend it to students, which I think is incredible, because it does stop near Fisher, and the bus stops in front of the high school, and there's certainly capacity to get more high school students riding our buses. It's a great habit to learn before they go away to college, where they're going to get around on a bike or a bus, and they're not going to be driving to class. So I think it's good training for the future. And let's see. Sorry. And then the Finance Commission, I mean, there's the whole work plan that was outlined in the ballot initiative that they created, but in addition, the other items of looking at, so the writing is so small on here, the work of their ad hoc and looking at our 5-year capital program and operating budget, I think that's going to be incredibly helpful. So I appreciate the work of all of these commissioners, and I think these work plans align with our priorities and can make a huge difference in our community with recommendations coming to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, very quick comment. I just wanted to highlight one on each of them. So I think with the library, I just wanted to highlight the implementation of AB 1825, the California Freedom to Read Act from the library. I think this is awesome. I think this what this does is ensure that our library and its materials reflect the diversity of our community, and prohibits book banning in most cases, and I think really makes sure that our First Amendment protections are awarded in our library. Not that our library wasn't doing that, but I think this is a great exercise because our library does a lot of good, and I think that's a very good thing. I wanted to also call out the Gateway Project for the Arts and Culture Commission. Again, like Councilmember Risto said, this has been somewhat controversial, but this commission has worked incredibly hard on getting these out into the community, and I hear from a lot of folks that they really like them. So I think that's a good thing. And then on Complete Streets, I wanted to double down on the how exciting the bus pass ad hoc is. I think this is an excellent idea, and I've talked with the folks at VTA about the ways that we can partner to get bus passes out to our students and seniors, and I think those are the perfect populations to target with trying to get more ridership for the buses, and the more ridership we get, the better our bus service becomes, and so I think this is a win-win-win. So very supportive of all that. And then on the Finance Commission, I support all of that. It's a little bit more analytical, but very supportive of all that too.
Thank you. Okay, I will open this for public comment. Any public comment? Item 8 on the work plans. We did? Okay. Okay, thank you. No, it's okay. So I did have comment on the Complete Streets work plan, and already there are 5 ambitious items on it. I wanted to add another idea, but I'm not necessarily going to turn it into a motion because I'd like to see have staff's input on it. But there was phase 1 of the Dixon report called for a wayfinding program to help find parking. And when we implemented the parklets, we essentially removed a lot of parking. And so downtown retail businesses have continued to ask about this. And even 2 weeks ago, I had a long conversation about what we're going to do about improving the parking situation, particularly for retail businesses. I know that we are about to put up some static signs. That's fine. It's 4 years later that since we started removing the parking, so I think we need to catch up on that. But the phase 1 of the Dixon report also recommended electronic wayfinding, and in the time period that has become more accessible in that it can be done with cameras rather than loops and can help visitors find parking places. So this is a suggestion. It's not part of the motion, but I would ask the CSTC to take another look at the Dixon report, particularly the wayfinding that's part of phase 1, and consider recommending a timeline for the electronic wayfinding, as I think it will help our businesses. But it's a suggestion, not a motion. So would anyone like to make a motion about the work plans? Councilmember Badami.
I move to approve the 2025 work plans recommended by the town's library board, Arts and Culture Commission, Complete Streets and Transportation Commission, and Finance Commission.
Councilmember Risto.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes unanimously. Thank you. And now we will move to item number 9. Yes, Councilmember.
Yeah, thank you. Unfortunately, due to the proximity of my home to this next project, I am required to be recused. So I will find another place to hang out until this is over.
Okay, thank you. We will be doing council matters at the end. So, okay, so I'm going to start with item number 9. Item number 9 is 110 Wood Road, and it's to consider a recommendation by the Planning Commission to approve a planned development for construction of a senior living community, removal of large protected trees, site improvements requiring a grading permit, and to adopt a resolution certifying the final EIR and associated reports, and introduce an ordinance repealing the establishment of development standards in that area and establishing a new ordinance. So it's a complicated agenda item. I'd like to start with something simple, which is council disclosures. And so I would ask council members whether they have any disclosures about this item. Vice Mayor.
Sure. I have visited the site on multiple occasions and met with the project developers on multiple occasions.
Thank you. Councilmember Rennie.
I've met with the project developer sometime in the last 6 months, maybe last 3 months, sometime not too recently.
Councilmember Badami.
So I have walked this site several times. Actually, I was on the planning on council back in 2022. when we originally heard this. I have met with the developers probably within the last month, so I'm very familiar with the site.
Okay, thank you. I went back through my calendar and records, and since the last council meeting, I've met with the developers, I believe, 9 times, and including viewing the site. And then I met with adjacent neighbor yesterday and had a view from their property of the site as well. The disclosures are very important, and we want to make sure that, particularly on land use items, that they're well covered and that we cover those with the Planning Commission as well. It's very important. Okay, so let's move to the staff report, please.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mullen? Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening once again. The subject property is 10.8 acres and is the home of the Meadows Senior Community, which operated from 1971 until 2019. The proposed plan development ordinance for consideration this evening would allow for demolition of all the existing buildings on the site, construction of a new full-service senior living community with 187 independent living units and 24 supporting care units, removal of approximately 192 trees, including 8 large protected trees, and site improvements requiring a grading permit. The application was considered by the Planning Commission and the Town Council on several occasions throughout 2022 and 2023. The feedback provided to the applicant generally related to concerns over building heights, tree removal, lack of diversity in housing types, and the concentration of luxury housing units, an appreciation of the applicant's regard for the fire safety, and a preference to not remove parking to reduce grading. The applicant now presents a revised project presented through the town's typical discretionary process. The development area remains consistent with previous iterations. Building height has been redistributed amongst the buildings, with 3 villas increasing in height and 2 decreasing. The applicant indicates that the intent of the height redistribution is to reduce visual impacts to the project. The revised project no longer includes penthouses, helping to reduce average size of the units. The number of independent units has increased as a result from 174 to 187, and the number of supportive care units has increased from 17 to 24. The revised project includes a reduction in grading of approximately 11,500 cubic yards, a result of reducing the size of the parking garages. The materials, architecture, and building forms remain consistent with previous iterations of the project. On November 13th, 2024, the Planning Commission considered the project and voted unanimously to forward a recommendation of the Council for approval, with an added recommendation that the applicant consider height reductions where possible to address the Wood Road neighbors' concerns. In response to the Planning Commission's recommendation, the applicant noted that they believe the current proposal achieves an appropriate balance between the numerous applicable factors involved. The applicant did provide an alternate version responding to the Commission that does reduce the height of the uphill portion of Villa A by 1 floor and increases the height of Villa B by 1 floor. The applicant states that this alternate version is intended to mitigate view impacts to several homeowners on Wood Road without materially increasing view impacts from other key viewpoints in the town. Based on the merits of the project, staff recommends that the Council accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and adopt the draft resolution to make the CEQA findings of fact, certify the final EIR, and adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, and introduce the plan development ordinance approving the PD application. A desk item has been distributed, including additional renderings showing the alternate plan, a letter from the applicant, and additional public comment. This concludes my presentation, and staff's available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions before we get to the applicant? I had one general question about the units. I believe there are 187 units proposed. How many of the units will have kitchens, and how many will count toward the RENA allocation, the RENA cycle this time?
Thank you for that question. So all 187 independent living units will have full kitchens. Staff understands that these units will count towards the town's RENA obligation. The 24 supportive care units will not include kitchens and would not count towards RENA.
Great. That's very helpful in putting this in context. So thank you. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, one quick question, and the applicant could also answer this if you don't know off the top of your head, but do you know with the alternate proposal, is there an adjustment, how many fewer units does that create? I can also just ask the applicant.
I have it here. I believe it's reduces by 2 units down to, pull the right table here, down to 185, but it does not impact the supportive care units. That would remain at 24.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So now we're going to move to the applicant, and the applicant will have 5 minutes total for the team, and I have several names here, Frank Rockwood, David Hoagland, Mary McCullen, and so you can use that time as you like. Thank you.
Okay, great. Greetings. My name is Frank Rockwood. I've been working on the rebuild of Los Gatos Meadows on behalf of its nonprofit owner since 2018. There's a key point I want to emphasize. This is not a builder's remedy project. Accordingly, Front Porch has engaged the community extensively. In fact, the level of community engagement has been substantially higher than any other project I've worked on in my 30-plus years in real estate development. What are we hearing from the broader community? There's a broad support for keeping a senior living use at this location. There's heightened appreciation for fire safety and the fire safety improvement attributes of our proposal. There's a request that Front Porch provide services and support to the Los Gatos residents beyond the ones that would live on campus. And among our neighbors, there's concerns that you would typically hear for a project of this type. For instance, concerns about traffic impact, traffic in general. But the greatest concern revolves around the massing, visual impact, and what the project looks like. And to specifically address that issue, I'd like to introduce our project architect, David Hoagland.
Greetings. The redesign of Los Gatos Meadows has been inspired by the variegated patterns of nature and the live oaks on the property. The materials are metal siding, precast concrete, stone cladding over a fire-resistive concrete frame. The material colors are generally organic and darker nature to blend in with the hillside setting. The proposed design creates a village feel with 8 villa buildings and a total of 187 residential units. The villas are tucked into the hillside with a continuous underground base that contains parking, services, and community for the residents. The villa buildings rise up from that base 3 stories on the front of the site and up to 6 stories on the rear site against the hillside. It's important to note that our proposed tallest 6-story villa is below the elevation of Wood Road at the back of our site. It's an unusual and challenging site, steeply sloped in excess of 90 feet with a preserved oak woodland at the top. It's also a fairly secluded location, accessed by Wood Road, which is pretty well vegetated. We looked at expanding the development area. Those options destroyed the existing tree cover, brought us closer to neighbors, created access issues, required extensive retaining walls, and compromised fire safety. We strongly believe that retaining the existing development pad is critical. We have reduced the height of villas B and C by 1 floor each, as well as stepping back Villa A at the front where it's most visible from Main Street. We determined that raising villas F and G would unduly impact the residents on Wood Road. The Planning Commission unanimously approved these revisions, but they did request that we study any alternatives that might mitigate view issues for the Wood Road residents. We have studied an option, and if appropriate, we are prepared to discuss it this evening. However, we believe our originally submitted proposal is the best option. In summary, we have shifted and tucked more of the development into the hillside, including linking villas D and E and F and G, and we have tried to be good listeners to the neighbors, balancing their concerns while creating a financially sustainable and vital community for Los Gatos seniors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Mary McMullen with Front Porch. And I just wanted to state that after years of experience of operating Los Gatos Meadows, we know what a valuable town Los Gatos is, and we want to be back. We want to be bringing more to the community. If you could go please to slide 9. We are ready to enhance the concentric circles of community living in keeping with our mission. First, Los Gatos Meadows, then the ever-increasing circles of families and staff and friends that are part of this, and the final concentric circle of Los Gatos as the greater community. By bringing other services that Front Porch offers, like Well Connected and Home Match, we will actually be adding much more to the community, including more homes that are served and more people that are served. We are ready. We'd love to get started. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect. Are there any questions for the applicant at this point? Okay. Seeing none, applicant will have an opportunity for 3 minutes after we take public comment. So I'm going to start with public comment. We have a number of cards. And so the first one I have is Rob Stump, followed by Karen Yamamoto, and then Catherine Summers.
Council, good evening. First, I need to disclose that I am a member of the Planning Commission, although I was not a member of the Planning Commission in November. Tonight, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Commission. I'm a Los Gatos Hillside resident who lives in the wildland-urban interface, the WUI, and have actively been involved in our community advocating for wildfire preparedness and prevention. Tonight, I will share my thoughts about wildfire prevention and mitigation as it relates to the proposed senior living community at 110 Wood Road. Over the past couple of years, I was asked to meet with the applicant of this project on 2 occasions. Why? To discuss this project and provide my input on efforts to make the proposed senior community wildfire resistant. Here are my comments on the development from a wildfire safety perspective. First, building construction. The new buildings, by definition, will be fire resistant. The building materials are far superior to the ones used when this project was originally developed. This is critical in the event fire blows into this development. Second, tree removal and forest management. Trees will be removed to facilitate development. Trees with tall canopies and too close to structures will be removed for fire safety and public safety in general. The landscape plan for the new development calls for more trees to be planted than removed. The species of these trees, including height, will be better choice for this development in the WUI. There are also 5 acres of open space just west of the development, primarily forested with oaks and other native trees that will be under the stewardship of the senior community management. I've encouraged them to be good neighbors and manage this open space aggressively, keeping the forest floor clear, trees limbed up, and weeds under control. This will be beneficial to all that share this hillside. Lastly, defensible space. Due to the design of this development, it serves as a fire break for South Santa Cruz Avenue and some residents on Broadway. With new building standards, the reduced number of tall trees, some of which are flammable, and access road around the entire development, fire services not only has defensible space around the development, they have access to fight a fire before it proceeds into the neighborhoods or the downtown. From a wildfire preparation and mitigation perspective, I believe the applicant has taken appropriate steps to limit the potential impacts due to wildfire for this senior community. Based on the construction of the buildings, tree removal, including reduction of canopy, significant defensible space zone, I fully support this project from a wildfire perspective. I look forward to a new senior living community that will allow more seniors the opportunity to remain in this community or to come to the community of Los Gatos. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Karen Yamamoto.
Feels short. Okay, there we go. First off, hi. I like this idea. I think we need a senior community living facility. I just don't like the plan. I'm worried. I actually have looked through all of this stuff and really done a lot of research, and it still comes down to one road in, one road out. And it's for, if we have 187 units, we have over 300 people not only living but working in this facility. How are they going to get out? And that parking garage, it has one way in and one way out. There's no secondary exit. There's a little concern that I have on this build. And these pictures that are supplied by the developers, I know my printer had an issue, but it's a little shady on which build they're actually going to go with. And it's not apparent on Los Gatos website what they're actually planning to do. The other issue I had is that the Santa Clara County Fire Department, the thing that they have it down on the site, that was observed in July 22nd, 2024. This is a whole new proposal. This is not the same build and fire regulations that you have on your website or that they have on theirs. I have a lot of concerns. I don't like these pictures that I'm seeing. This one picture on Main Street of the view, come off of it. Why are you showing me a picture of a view of it on Main Street at a really, really, really terrible angle? It's not even close to there. But if you can see it that big from Main Street, I got a question about the size of the development and the prospects. I'd like to see a picture of it from like where the post office is. I'd like to see it from the view of the park. I guarantee it's going to be huge. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Catherine Summers, and then Julie Southern and Alan Feinberg after that.
Good evening, Council. My name is Catherine Summers. I was the former executive director of the Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce, and now I have a small business in downtown called Centerpiece Flowers. So I'm here tonight, actually, to show my support for the rebuild of the Meadows. I wish 2 or 3 years ago I might have spoken up a little bit louder, because I realized then how important the rebuild of this facility was. We have a lot of seniors in this community that live in big houses all over town, and they want to stay in Los Gatos, and they want to continue doing business in Los Gatos, but they don't really have any place to go. They need a luxury living site. We now, as a business owner in town, and there's many others, we need people who love Los Gatos, who have shopped in Los Gatos for years, to continue living here so that they continue supporting our business community. I think, and I was actually relieved to hear Mr. Stump talk about, the fire safety. I think that was probably one of my main concerns years ago. But I do believe that the developers have really looked at that and have mitigated any of that fear that we may have about that facility as it relates to fire. I think, again, I'm going to go back to community. We don't want to lose these seniors. I mean, this Los Gatos Thrives program that has just been started in the last couple of years. So many of those citizens who are involved in that organization, they really want to stay in Los Gatos, and they want to continue living amongst their friends and their families, and they want to join in all the activities that are downtown, and they want to continue shopping and supporting all of our economy here. So I urge you tonight to listen to what the developers have to say and really look at the beauty of the space in terms of not only the aesthetics, but also of what you're doing in terms of keeping some really good people in our in and amongst the rest of us. Thanks.
Any questions? Thank you. Julie Southern, and then Alan Feinberg.
Hello, my name is Julie Southern. I live on Wood Road, and for 37 years, I have been participating, have always been a supporter of the Meadows. And according to their document that they submitted today, I've been to over 10 of their meetings, 40 emails, and multiple town council and commission meetings. So I have been participating. And in those meetings, the Meadows has addressed my major concerns at the time, which were access, fire, and parking. It wasn't until they did the redesign from 4 stories to 6 stories that it became another item for me to show interest in or have an issue with. And with that, at the meeting in November, there was a request. You passed it to go to the town council, but to provide an alternative. The alternative being 5 stories. Thank you on Villa A, F staying 5 stories. That's better than the 6 stories. Would love to have it back at 4 stories, which was what the original design was. But the 6-story Villa A is not a good solution for myself. I got 2 phone calls while I was here of 2 other neighbors that were not able to attend. They're stuck in traffic coming back from San Francisco. And they wanted me to make sure I mentioned them as well. So that was Andy Gofrani and Matthew Southern. So I think that's it. That's all I have to say.
Yes, Councilmember Rubadami.
Thank you, Ms. Southern. Have you had an opportunity to review the alternative proposal?
I've read everything.
So with that being said, I believe the alternate proposal removes 1 story. Would you
Villa
be,
A.
Right. Would you be satisfied with that?
5 is great. 4 would be wonderful. But yes, 5 is great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I had a question about that as well. I read the Planning Commission, and subsequently I read a letter from the applicant on December 30th, I believe, stating that they had an alternative. When did you see documentation of what the alternative is and any visualizations of that alternative?
I know I read it in detail when I pulled the council packet, I guess on Friday when that came out, with all the pages that you have printed here. I know that Frank, we're on a first name basis, Frank, sent an email saying that they were going to go to the council with the original proposal of 6, that they were putting together an alternative with a 5-story on Villa A, and that detail would follow in January sometime, I think. And unfortunately, I apologize, I don't know the exact date. It could have been 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah, I saw it today. I don't know. We'll ask staff when that was received. But any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for appearing here and sticking with this process.
Thank you.
Okay, Alan Feinberg, and then Dima Rosenblatt.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alan Feinberg. I am here tonight to express my strong support for the Los Gatos Meadows redevelopment project. And I'm expressing my personal opinion as a private citizen who's lived in Los Gatos for 35 years, not on behalf of any particular organization. But it is through my experience on the board of the Los Gatos Thrives Foundation that I've learned firsthand about the critical need in our town for a facility like this and how much it could benefit our growing senior population and the community at large. It's also given me a chance to meet the local management team of the property owners, Front Porch, and I've been very impressed by their experience, their integrity, their flexibility to deal with everything we've thrown at them, and their transparency as well. Now, we have to remember the Front Porch isn't just a big developer looking to cash in on Builders Remedy. In fact, they're a nonprofit that's been providing innovative housing solutions exclusively for older adults for decades. Their proposal, and I have a hard time believing this, was first submitted way back in January of 2020. That's long before the current crop of development projects. And they've spent the last 5 years bending over backwards, revising and improving it based on extensive community engagement and feedback from our Planning Commission. So here we are, with a once-in-a-generation opportunity to make a lasting impact on the quality of life of our seniors and their families and the community at large, with a state-of-the-art continuing care facility that's long overdue. I strongly encourage the council to approve the recommendation by the Planning Commission. Let's get started with this project now.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much, Mr. Feinberg. It's okay if you don't have an opinion on this, but I wanted to see if you might. I think we're going to end up evaluating the current proposal versus the alternative, and the alternative knocking out 2 units. As someone that's been involved in the community engagement process and also, supporting older adults and seniors in our community for a while, do you have a preference between the two, or do you think it's a worth it endeavor to knock off a few units to lower the height?
Well, sure, it's always a worthwhile endeavor to make the project fit in with the views of the community. To mitigate the impact on the visual at the hillside. But my major concern is we've been at this for such a long time, and this is such a critical project that I wonder how much longer Front Porch is going to put up with all of us before they decide that, it's just not worth it anymore. So after 5 years, I hope we can come to a rapid resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dima Rosenblatt, and then Annie Schwartzstein.
All right. Hello, council members. I appreciate your time. I'm a resident who lives only a few blocks away from the proposed development, and I'm also speaking in support of the development as proposed. As we think about the evolution of Los Gatos, I think it's important that we reflect on the growing importance of senior housing. Since 2000, the share of 65-plus-year-old residents of the community has grown 5 percentage points to over 20%. And, under, the expected growth, we would expect that to rise. So as we think about accommodating our growing senior population, I think we need to be willing to permit the housing that will accommodate those seniors as they graduate to the next stage of their lives. I think the developer made thoughtful changes to the proposal based on council and neighbor comments, and I think it's a great next step to solving the housing shortage in our state, especially for seniors. Thank you.
Thank you. Annie Schwartzstein. And then Grant Sedgwick after that.
Hello, Council. I'd also like to speak in support of the senior living community. I live just a few blocks from the proposed proposed community, and I see it as a great addition to the neighborhood. The location to the community is close to downtown, which I think allows people in the community to get to downtown quickly and easily. This gives people living in the community the opportunity to get to downtown without needing a car. I think this is great as it provides seniors with continued freedom as they age. It also limits the amount of cars on the road. I also completely agree with one of the previous speakers who spoke about how it is really important to keep seniors who are currently living in Los Gatos in the community. This gives not only the opportunity for these seniors to continue to live and thrive in Los Gatos, but also for young families to move into houses throughout the town of Los Gatos. Also, I think that the building is in a really good proposed spot for keeping the character within the town. It would be situated right behind that hotel right there. And taking a look at the proposed visualizations, I don't see large changes from the view lines from the streets, and I think this is a great example of how we can increase housing for seniors within the community while continuing to maintain the character of the town. So I think this is an excellent example of how to develop this difficult site, as the applicants spoke to. And these villas seem like a really great way to not impact the view of the residents in the area. And after listening to the applicants, they seem really excited to listen to those in the community and to work with the neighbors. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Grant Sedgwick, and then Tom Pickrow. That's the last card that I have. There may be people online.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Grant Sedgwick, resident of Los Gatos for about 30 years. I have a few comments in support, strong support of the project. I have no involvement in any way, financially or otherwise. But I do know something about this industry because I've worked in it. In fact, I'm just making a note to myself about demand and the need. 17 years ago, I worked for a company that brought a project forward. I think we didn't ever get to full city council because we didn't have support to develop a project like this on the site of Los Gatos Lodge. And there was at that time demand and need for seniors housing in a continuing care retirement environment, which is exactly what's being proposed here. I also know something about the economics of this business, having worked at it for 7 or so years. And it is, perhaps an instinct to want to make things smaller and shorter. This project is already very small for the kinds of service and the levels of staffing that are required to provide a continuum of care. We worked on projects throughout the state that sort of by necessity economically had to be another 100 or more units larger than this one, so 275 or 300 independent living units. I know that the sponsor here is a nonprofit, but they still have to make the numbers work. These buildings are very expensive, and seniors can only pay so much to make this their home for the 12 or 15 or 20 years, hopefully, that remain after they've moved in. The economics have to work, and trimming away at the building, I don't know where it started in terms of numbers, but it's a sort of an instinct to want to make it smaller because of visual impacts, but in fact it is a very small project in this particular industry of continuing care retirement communities. The wildfire mitigation, which I don't speak to as any expert, but I was here long enough ago to remember when we had to evacuate, there was in fact the risk of a fire overtaking downtown Los Gatos. I lived at that time on Hernandez Avenue, and I believe it was a required evacuation. I don't think it was just a suggested evacuation. So if this project improves the life safety and the wildfire mitigation prospects for our town, I think that almost by itself is a worthwhile consideration for approval of the project. So I would just say that we need it. The cohort of seniors, folks like my age, it's growing much more quickly than any other cohort of the population. And 17 years ago, we knew there was a demand here for this kind of community, this kind of seniors community that provides a continuum of care. So please support the project. I was at the Planning Commission, and they were enthusiastically supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Pickrow, and then I'll go to Zoom if there's any comments there.
Good evening. I'm Tom Pickrow. I'm speaking for myself as a resident and as a senior also. I support this project for development for senior housing. I would note that the increase in senior housing and seniors living in Los Gatos in the last decade has grown from 15% to about double that size within the next couple years. We have a large senior population, and we need housing. We need housing for all demographics, people of all economic means. And for seniors, this serves very well in the sense that it allows a place for people to downsize, making their home available to other people for purchase. And it makes a place for seniors who have lived here their many, many years, perhaps their whole life, and live in a place they love, to still be in the place, in fact, to be very close to downtown and have ways to get down to the town. And the property is beautifully designed and will serve the senior population very well. I also want to point out that we have a vibrant downtown, which I love, which is a result of very good businesses in that town, in the downtown area. And seniors living in the, if they live in the Meadows area and the property development goes forward, will certainly contribute to that in a positive way. It will help to continue and to make our downtown vibrant, with all ages represented and being part of that downtown. I think that's a great thing. Finally, I would just say that the property has been reviewed and revised based on the feedback. I think this the developer has taken a lot of things into consideration. I appreciate that. It is run by a nonprofit that is an organization that's dedicated to supporting seniors and for good senior living and for other benefits to seniors in our community. So I think it's time to move forward and approve this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online on Zoom?
Yes, we have 2 hands raised on Zoom.
Okay.
Rich Stevens.
Okay, Mr. Stevens, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rich Stevens. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. First, I fully support the idea of rebuilding the Meadows Senior Center. My father interviewed there years ago, and he actually wound up moving to Texas after 50 years in Los Gatos due to a lack of sufficient and affordable senior care centers here. The latest development plan that I find is dated on June 26, 2024, with a revision of July 30th, 2024. So on the website, it appears that there's no current development plan listed. From the front page of this, as well as from a number of other documents, it shows a park-like setting with what look like 3- and 4-story buildings. I find this very misleading. There is also a link called Visual Renderings, 110 Wood Road, dated November 6, 2024. In it, there are a number of pictures that seem to be strategically presented so as to not clearly show what this project would look like from surrounding areas of our town. In Los Gatos, even with special circumstances, I believe we still have a 45-foot height limitation. At 6 stories and 82 feet tall, this project significantly exceeds this and sets a horrible precedent. With 187 units, 174 being multi-room, and an additional 24 care units, there are only 214 parking spaces provided. With staff, I imagine 200 to 300 vehicles or more. Where are all these supposed to park? Are they going to be in town? People aren't going to be walking up that road if they're seniors for very long. There appears to be one-way traffic entering Wood Road and Broadway onto single-lane traffic in each direction for quite a distance. With a 20-foot wide road and what looks like very tight corners, it is unclear to me how a fire ladder truck can access these 6-story buildings. This, combined with an estimated 300 vehicles, an elderly population, and other things, would be an absolute disaster in a fire or earthquake. I don't believe this is a fire shield. It is a potential fire catastrophe. Again, I fully support the center being rebuilt with up to 4 stories, but with many other concerns, until this project's height and size can be reduced, please reject this based on height and safety alone. It's a reach for profitability, in my perspective, from a company that is looking to build senior center in Los Gatos, which I think, again, is a great idea, but not at this size and height. It'll scar our hillside for life. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on Zoom?
John Shepherdson.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Shepherdson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So last Friday, on business, I was in Los Angeles, and I drove into Altadena, and I drove through the neighborhoods that were basically gone. House after house after house, burned cars, standing chimneys, like a bomb site. And so I guess one of the things I would ask is how would this structure do if there were 100-mile-an-hour winds coming towards the site? I appreciate Mr. Stump's comments about it being a fire break. That sounds good. I'm concerned about evacuation of the elderly in time of, when you may have just minutes to get out of there. Perhaps a second service road could be provided for. There was a mention of there's 5 open space acres. I don't know if there could be some sort of requirement that those 5 acres be managed properly as a town requirement rather than as a recommendation. Perhaps on site a bus of some sort, so that in the event that there needed to be an evacuation, you could have 1 vehicle rather than 100 vehicles. So I guess my last comment is the height and mass in terms of visuals, and also in terms of the number of people are up there that you may have to evacuate. So I'm thinking about it not just in terms of 5 or 10 years. I'm thinking with the risk of fire in our area that it's easy to be in denial of until it happens to you, that I'm thinking 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, when you get this perfect storm situation that creates the kind of risks that occurred for Altadena as well as Pacific Palisades. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have no more Zoom. Is that correct?
Correct. There are no more hands on Zoom.
Okay, I have a card. Leafa, go.
Good evening again, and I'm only speaking as a longtime resident of Los Gatos. I'm not representing any group. I agree very much with the last 2 speakers that yes, indeed, we do need some additional senior housing, and this facility seems to apply a lot of those services, and that is something very positive, very good. However, as the previous 2 speakers and a few others have commented, there is a concern with the safety issues and the design. So that this building is more appealing, or this complex is more appealing to folks, yet at the same time accommodating the residents there and the rest of the residents in the surrounding area for their view. Regarding the safety issue, right now there's only one way in and out. I've driven around the complex just about a year ago. Well, it was pretty much abandoned, and the concern that I have is that there is only one way in, one way out, and that is not in compliance with the Santa Clara County Fire District's requirement of anything over 150 units must have 2 entrance exits, and a roadway around the site. So it looks as though the Farwell Road could be a through street to Main Street, and that would give an alternative, another route in and out. So that would take care of some of the safety issues of getting people in and out of the complex and emergency equipment in and out of the complex. I think further to the point that was made about the parking on site, that is a concern as well. I know the clowns in Sacramento have some new legislation about what can be allowed and not allowed in terms of parking requirements, but the town can still, for this type of a complex, make a directive that there be more parking for the staff that is going to be working there, as well as for some of the residents who are going to be there. And currently the proposal for parking is significantly under what would be adequate for staff and residents. But again, having a senior housing complex like this with the services they're going to be providing is an excellent, excellent opportunity. And let's work together to resolve it so that it is safe, accommodating, and yet will fit into the character of the town with proper views and safety issues. And this town faced some very serious fires that wiped out parts of the downtown Los Gatos in the 1890s, the pre-teens of the 20th century. So there is a history of that in this town, 5 significant downtown fires, and let's not allow that to happen again. So thank you.
Yes, Vice Mayor has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Fago. Thanks for your comments, as always. So my understanding of this project is that there is a secondary emergency access road. Does that, if that...
I couldn't find it in the diagrams or anything. Where is that?
I see it in the diagrams that I'm looking at.
What is it called?
There's Farwell and then there's Wood Road. So to that question, if there were a secondary emergency access road, would that make you feel more comfortable with the development?
It would make me feel more comfortable, and I think also the residents there feel safer. The Farwell Road, in the renderings that I've seen and when I drove up there, did not connect through to Main Street.
Okay, thanks for your comment.
It's there, but it doesn't connect.
Thank you. I'm sure there will be some questions to the applicant and to staff about that. Okay, so I'm going to close public comment now and ask the applicant to come back if they'd like to address any of the points that were raised. You have 3 minutes for your team, and I'm sure that there are questions that the council will have also. Sure. Thank you. Mr. Arnold, go ahead.
Hello, members of the council. Thank you for letting me join via Zoom. My name is Jonathan Arnold. I am the CEO of Arnold Imaging. I have been in the visualization business for over 25 years. And I'm here to describe our methods used to do the visualizations. First, we build a 3D model of the entire region, including the surrounding hillsides. Next, we photograph the site from the various vantage points, view sheds that were given to us, both by the town and requested by the surrounding neighbors. And then we create, and you can see this on slide 12 of your presentation, that we match the 3D model to various points in the photograph to make sure that what we're showing in the 3D model is in fact accurate. Then we also use the tree planting plan and the inventory to accurately depict the foliage that's both existing, what will be removed, and what is being proposed. here to answer any questions you have about visualizations that we've put together, both for the proposed plan and the alternative plan.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go through all of the applicant's remarks, and then we may come back.
Thank you. I want to convey that we truly appreciate that our proposal is not without impacts. We know that. But we do believe this current proposal reflects the best balance for our town, our neighbors, our potential residents. The plan was signed off and approved on by County Fire. And on balance, we believe this rebuild is a significant contribution to the town and a valuable asset to the community, and arguably the best use of the property, bringing it back to what it was, but in such a better, modern, updated, and vibrant way. I really would like to express my appreciation to the neighbors, to all staff involved, to the Planning Commission, all of you as community leaders for helping us with this process. We're here to answer all questions. And as I said before, I'll keep saying it, we are ready to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other remarks? I don't see any, so I'll go to Councilmember Rennie with a question.
So if the applicant could go over the changes related to fire, you know, you've been here 3 years ago and we went through it then, and you've gone through it on the Planning Commission, but there's some people that were not through those discussions that raised concerns. So I think it would be useful to go in more detail of, you know, how you've widened the road. You now have a road that goes around that didn't go around before. Fire trucks couldn't turn around before, and touch on the thinning of the trees, and whether there's a second road that's available in case of fire.
We can go to slide 52 of the presentation. It's a good illustration of the site.
Could you raise your mic slightly?
Yes, sorry. Slide 52, please, of the presentation. Of course, the first and biggest fire safety item that we've done is building type. It's a non-combustible construction, which is way different than what's out there now. The removal of trees around the site that endanger the site at the time, and then replanting with nice landscaping, vegetation, and green zones is going to help with that buffer quite a bit. From an access standpoint, we have widened what is Farwell Road is on the bottom of the screen that comes off of Wood Road and goes all the way to Broadway. We've widened that out. Right now it's about 12 feet in most cases. It's pretty narrow. We're widening it to 26 feet and all the way until the as you head towards Broadway till it goes around the building, and it's 20 feet as we go down the hill to Broadway. That is going to be an emergency vehicle access only. It's not going to be used on a regular basis. It will be bollarred off at Broadway, so we won't have traffic coming in and out of there regularly, but it will be used by the fire department or police or any other emergency vehicles to access the site as a secondary access, either because we have two different accesses now from Wood Road. The other big thing that we did was that doesn't exist today is the second access off of Wood Road farther up the hill goes all the way around the building now. It doesn't right now. It dead ends behind the building. On the north side of the page right of the site, where the garage exits, is an emergency gathering spot too, so that there's foot access down from the podium or from the terrace level, as well as access out of the garage for folks to gather and wait for transportation off the site in the event of emergency. So the circulation has been greatly improved. The site to the roof of every building has ladder access available. We've gone through several iterations with the fire department to show them how ladder trucks will be able, their largest aerial vehicles will be able to negotiate the site. And quite frankly, that was why we created the access all the way around, in order to provide that for them. They can get to the roof of every building from these access roads, and as well as getting in and out of the site much easier than has been in the past.
And I think one of the questions that had been asked over time was, why not, instead of height, expand up the hill? And I think this is one of the reasons you couldn't do that easily was you were trying to get this fire road in.
That's one of them. The other parts is we're really trying to contain it into the existing footprint, because as we go up the hill, you can kind of see how close those contours are together. It's incredibly steep. If you go up there, matter of fact, I mean, the Wood Road behind Villa A, if you were standing on Farwell and looking at Villa A, Wood Road is above the top of the proposed 6-story building. It is incredibly steep on the back side of that. So in order to develop anything up there, you're not only removing a bunch of trees, but you're digging out a bunch of dirt to try and flatten it out to make it anything even closely developable.
Thank you, Mayor. If any other council members have questions on
Any
safety?
other questions about fire safety or access? Councilmember Badami?
So thank you for going into detail on the fire circulation plan. That was much appreciated. Can you just elaborate on the actual evacuation plans that you might have for the residents should there be a fire?
We do a great deal of work with emergency planning and fire access and fire drills. We actually currently operate a community up in Santa Rosa and Sonoma County, and we've had to evacuate that community twice for fire, each time successfully. And the residents there drill every year actively on fire. Recently in the Altadena fire, the Eaton fire, our community in Pasadena was on alert for fire evacuation. All went very smoothly in the sense that people were ready with their go bag. They had their ID. We followed the plan. We knew where people were going to go, and we executed that plan. Fortunately, 3 weeks ago, we didn't have to evacuate a community. But I can tell you, Chris Echian has firsthand knowledge, having to do it twice. We run these plans according to state law, but also according to actual experience. So we will do the same here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I had a question on a different topic, and that's about the senior community, the older adult community. And I wonder if you could explain your vision for this application. This is a new or revived older adult community. Do you see it as part of the Los Gatos community, especially with regard to activities that older adults might be interested in participating in? And I do have some other questions about affordable housing and other things.
Right since the beginning of this plan, we always saw our differentiator for this community as being attached to the town. Our location is wonderful. The vertical height makes it a little bit of an issue. So that's why we looked at all the different ways we could use Farwell Lane to bring residents into the community so that they can be part and parcel of Los Gatos. One of the things we've seen with most of our communities is that residents want to contribute. They want to be part of the greater community, and they contribute volunteer hours, not just the business, which is very important. We also looked at ways that we could incorporate restaurants into our dining program. We looked at ways that we wouldn't build specific areas because we wanted people to use town resources. So in keeping with what I believe today's dynamic is, working in this field as long as I have and working with active communities, people don't want to be in an enclave. They want to be in community. And our location allows us to do this here. And Los Gatos allows us to do this here because everything that the town offers is what our residents are looking for. I think, as you know, we've taken an active position with supporting the goals of the Thrive Foundation, and we would love to work collaboratively with Los Gatos and its organizations and just extend our resident opportunities there and invite the community in as well.
So I had another question related, which is about affordable housing. And my understanding is that there's not a statutory requirement for inclusionary affordable units here, yet you, in a letter that we just received, you had a proposal about affordable housing, and you've also described the home match program and a creative engagement. Could you talk a little bit about how that relates to the fact that we have a lot of seniors here, but many are challenged with affordability.
Absolutely. A significant portion of Front Porch is our affordable housing division called Caring Housing Ministries. And we actually own and operate 34 affordable housing communities throughout California. The closest one here would be in Cupertino and then in San Jose, as well as in Palo Alto. So this is something we're experienced with. We actually have a small neighborhood of 22 homes here in Los Gatos called El Sombroso Oaks. And after considering what we could do to benefit Los Gatos, we're prepared to offer 11 of those homes as part of a county housing voucher program to older people. And so as those homes would become available, we would make them available on an affordable basis. So hopefully contributing some affordability to the town. Along with Home Match, which is a home sharing program, we are successfully doing this throughout the Bay Area. I was looking at some numbers because Home Match is a program where we don't just put a listing on Craigslist, for example. We actually vet the home provider and the home seeker, and we work with them to craft a living together agreement so that it's a strong match and it's a lengthy match. And if you look just in fiscal 24, which for us ended last April 1, we had matched 414 households. And that's in 1 year. So when you think of the addition of those households, the housing program is interesting because we know that we have a housing problem, but we actually have enough bedrooms to house people. So if you look at people who have space in their home, who are willing, through a vetted process, to have someone live in with them in a negotiated agreement, it adds volumes of housing. And we believe that we could add as many as 12 homes a year in terms of people placed in homes here in Los Gatos. It enables the older person to stay in the home they love. It often provides dollars, funds that keep them there with the rising insurance and utilities. That's often helpful, but it's also companionship. It's community in that form as well. From a creative engagement side, we have invested further in Los Gatos with the purchase of an office building at 142 South Santa Cruz, a portion of which has a historic site on it. We really look to use that building as a community center. We offer creative aging and successful aging programs that bring forth people gathering together, facilitating meetings, offering meetings over computer or over the phone. It's a program we call Well Connected, and it's offered 365 days a year. And it's a volunteer teacher offering classes, and it is incredibly vibrant. We have about 4,000 to 5,000 people participating in that from across the country, and it's free of charge, and we would continue to offer that here.
Thank you for taking the time to describe that. That's actually part of our housing element implementation is home sharing.
Yes.
And it seems like that could be part of it. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Yeah, two questions on this. So, comment and a question. First, the home sharing program, I think that's fantastic. I'm excited to see that in the town of Los Gatos. I think that's something we could really benefit from. I'll just share anecdotally that my mom, who is an older adult, although I don't know if she would identify as that. She rents out a bedroom or two in her house for this exact reason, and I think some sort of matching program could be really, really helpful. Secondly, on the BMR unit, so I'm super appreciative that recognizing that as a senior living community, you're not mandated to comply with our BMR program, that you all still wanted to provide affordable units for the community. I'm super appreciative of that. My one question is on the 11 units at El Sombroso, when would you start converting the units to be BMR? And second part of that question is, I saw in your letter that you would pick the units, which I think is totally fine. Would those be the first 11 units, or how will that kind of come together?
Right. And I have to say, this is a work in progress for us as well. I would say commensurate with a building permit, we would begin offering those homes available. The homes that are there are largely 2-bedroom. There's a few 1-bedrooms and a few 3-bedrooms. We would really have to look at the location within the community, how much renovation the home needed, because some of these homes, people have lived in them for a long time. And so when they move out, it requires a full renovation. So we would really have to look at all of those conditions when choosing which homes, would be turned over. I think, Victor, is about 3 or 4 homes a year come available? Yeah, about 3 to 4 homes a year come available.
Okay, great, thank you. And then one follow-up on that is you talk about this 10-year timeline about being enrolled in the voucher program. Could you say a little bit more about the timeline?
Based on what we know right now from the County of Santa Clara, that was a timeline that there was funding for. In today's environment, I don't know. So we were estimating that based on the knowledge we have now. We'd certainly be willing to look at an ongoing funding source, but right now this is the information we have.
Okay, so and finally, so I'm understanding you're committing to a 10-year timeline, and as those expire, depending on the choice voucher and the duration of the person staying there, et cetera, right. You could consider expanding.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. I know I have some questions about the alternative. Are there any other questions from council members at this point? So I would be interested in understanding the alternative a little bit better, since I really only had a chance to look at it starting this afternoon. Does staff have a floor plan of the alternative, or a site plan that shows where the height would be changed from one building to another that we could look at together?
Sure. Thank you for that question. So the alternative plan was described through the December 30th letter, and included in that letter are some tables and some site plans that show where the reductions would take place from 6 to 5 stories on the back of Villa A, and from 3 to 4 stories increasing on Villa B. Floor plans aren't provided. This is the plan development level application, not an architecture and site. So we don't actually have full developed floor plans for any of the units. We do have floor plans showing how the units would be incorporated into the plan. The visualizations, which were described in the letter from December 30th, were provided via desk item today and are available as attachment, I'm going to say 11. And we've pulled some excerpts out of their slide deck, and they may have those available to pull up and present on the screen today.
Okay, I would be interested in looking at the supplemental slides that show the site and the buildings and the changes in building height, which I don't see a number on these slides.
And through the mayor, I do have that information available. It is included in the slides, but I've got some summary information available here to describe the height reduction and increase relative to villas A and B. One's losing a portion of it's losing a story, the other is gaining a story. So I can walk you through that.
Would it be possible to put up the slide that shows the proposal and the alternative that has, because I'm not sure everyone knows which one is A and B.
Sure. I think to assist the clerk, we would be looking for the attachment 9 to tonight's staff report, which is the letter from the applicant from December 30 of last year, and that will include some tables towards the back of that, and that could be put on the screen, and then I can briefly walk you through some of the impacts of the alternate design from a height standpoint.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I'm looking at like slide 37, 38, 39. Some of those slides, 37
In attachment.
and 38.
Okay, and that's in tonight's attachment.
Yeah. Is it possible to put those up?
That would be attachment 11 through the clerk. It's duplicative of some of the information here, but it might be easier to keep it to one attachment.
Yeah, it was page 37 of the desk item.
And I threw the clerk a curveball. I'm sorry. It would be attachment 12. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I have a suggestion here to take a 5-minute recess while we're getting oriented toward this. So we are in recess, and we'll get back at 9:12. Resume where we were. And so to remind everyone, we are in the portion where the applicant is able to respond to questions. And so I had asked to see the alternative proposal so that we could get oriented to what that proposal is. And so if we could put that slide up, that'd be great. And so someone from the applicant's team maybe orient us to the proposal. And I don't know if you have a pointer, but if you could indicate where 135 Wood Road is as well, so that we can understand the impact there. 135, yeah. Okay, great. And then if you could, thanks. Okay, great. And then if you could orient us to the buildings, this is the current proposal, and then the building A is in front there, and B is there. And if we could go to the next slide, we can see the alternative. And could you describe what the changes are? You can take this.
Thank you. So Villa A steps from 3 stories at the front to 6 stories in our proposal in the rear, but only the rear portion of it is 6 stories. Our alternate option is to take that 6th floor off, which has 8 units in it, and add a floor to B to go from 3 to 4 stories, which has 6 units per floor, which is the net loss of 2 units that we were discussing earlier. Other than that, everything's as we presented to the Planning Commission in November.
Okay, and were there any other visualizations of that alternative, the alternate design rather?
We have the visualizations looking at the changes in that development, yes. And Jonathan is on Zoom and is available to walk us through those if you would like.
For me, it would be helpful.
Okay. Jonathan, do you want to take over from here?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
If we are able to go to page 20, I believe, of the town council full, is that possible?
Page 20 of what document?
Is that the slide number 20?
Yes, it's labeled. The document itself is the town council full deck.pdf. And there's a picture showing, we can start from Main Street, showing from looking at the existing site is what 20, and then it goes to 21 and 22.
Right. Yeah, that's in that same attachment, and the slide number is 20, 21, and 22.
Are you able to pull that up and
it's the
share
same
that
deck that you were just in?
It's hard for me to see the screen. Let me know when you're there and I could walk you through it.
It's not up yet.
Great. So
Okay.
if we,
yeah,
I don't know if it's possible. It would be ideal if we could, if you could go to view on the upper left window for menu, and when it says on the menu, go down and have it be a single page view. So we can just go from page to page instead of scrolling. That way you'll be able to easily see. So if you go to page display, single page view, and maybe if you zoom out so that the entire page is visible. Well, we'll have to make do. So if you go up, we can start with the existing. So this is the existing view. If we go down to the next, to page 21, this is the proposed view, and you see how the building steps up, and there is a 6-story component that is at the very back, and it steps up. I believe the intent of the design was to step up in accordance with the hill, to basically put the massing into the hill as much as possible. And if you go to the next slide on 21, you'll see that that 6-story is there, but towards the front of the building, it's gotten slightly taller, 1 story taller, and you'll see it's a little bit more flattened out, but a little less kind of in keeping with the hill, if you will. If we go on to 23, we might need to zoom out just a little bit. This is where you can see the proposed on the left has the shorter building towards the front, and the alternative adds a story kind of away from the hill, which you can see here. You see more of the building as you're looking up from Santa Cruz with the alternate design.
And so if I may, that's a view up, looking up Wood Road from South Santa Cruz?
That's correct.
Okay.
And if we keep going to 27, this side-by-side comparison, I think may be helpful for you to see the differences here. So on the left, you have a 6-story version, and as you step towards the right on the proposed picture, which is on the left side of the screen, you see that the building steps down, and on the alternate, the 6-story is removed, but the massing is now placed on the right side. So it's down on the left and up on the right, which kind of flattens out the massing, if you will. And then if you proceed on to 31, that is a view from the lower level of the house that is on Wood Road, directly to the west of the project. And you can see again the difference being that 6-story on the left is taller on the left side, and it slopes down, and the alternate has a taller portion on the right side of the screen. And we've confirmed the 3D model in the photograph, and it is accurately depicting the mountains and the view in the background of the height of what will be seen.
Okay, I had a question, and then maybe we can wrap up this part and so that we can get into discussion. On that slide number 35, I'm sorry, if you could go to slide 35, which is a visualization from 135 Wood Road upper deck. So first of all, it looks like you've only done visualization from the upper deck of that house. Is that correct?
No, the visualizations on 39 are from the ground floor, looking out from the basically the view if you're standing in front of the front door.
I see. Okay, thank you. But on that slide 35, the view on the right, the alternate, that appears to be maybe 10 to 15 feet lower than the proposed.
I believe on the left side of the screen it's 1 story, and I'll have to defer to the architect for the exact floor-to-floor height.
Okay, I'm looking for the, what is the reduction there on the alternate? It appears to be about 10 to 15 feet lower. Is that correct?
I believe it's closer to 11. That's what the floor-to-floor heights would be.
Okay,
The
11
mansard
feet.
stays continuous, it just moves down.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have questions about the alternates before we move on? Okay. So the one question I had to do with the idea of the alternate. I believe that the Planning Commission, part of their motion was to ask the council to consider lower height options. And that was in, what, November? And then there was a letter December 30th, but did we only get the alternate today in terms of the drawings of the alternate and the renderings? And if that's the case, you know, and you were considering that, why wouldn't it have been available earlier?
Through the mayor, I can provide some clarification. The letter included a written description of the changes and also the site plans, some of which we saw tonight, showing the building height reductions. They also included tables describing the unit changes. What was received and distributed today, or I should say what was distributed today, was only the visual renderings. That was the only piece that we didn't have earlier and provide with the staff report.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. Yeah.
For the clarification that the visualizations were transmitted to the neighbors in interest on January 17th.
Okay.
A lot of those visualizations were actually included in their letters that they submitted.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions for the applicant before I close the public hearing? So I will close the public hearing and now look to the council for any questions of staff, and then moving toward ideas on this. So yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. So I have just a comment on the proposal versus the alternate, and then I have other comments I can wait till round 2. But on the proposal versus the alternate, I guess I don't have super strong opinions, but the one thing I think that we need to recognize is that I actually think looking at these visualizations, the impact from North Santa Cruz seems to be more significant than, you know, the additional height from North Santa Cruz seems to be more significant than the knockoff of height you're getting from Wood Road. But if we feel very strongly about wanting to lower the height for those on Wood Road, I understand. But I actually think from a town-wide perspective of trying to, you know, reduce the visual impact of this, it seems to me that the original proposal is likely better. And I also can't help but thinking about, you know, we're talking about a 211 unit project, and you know, sort of getting hung up on these units. I think that the 2 extra units are 2 extra people, 2 extra older adults that'll get to live here. And so I sort of lean towards proposal 1, but if folks have strong feelings towards the alternate, I wouldn't vote against it.
Other comments about the alternate versus the proposed? Councilmember Rennie?
I would tend to agree. I don't have strong feelings either way. The views from Main Street didn't seem that different to me. I mean, really, I'm not sure people are going to notice the difference. You know, if I was living on Wood Road, I actually like the proposed better than the alternate because in the alternate, you brought up more of the roof line above the tree, so you actually see more of it. In the proposed, you know, a good part of it is almost below the tree line there, but I'm not living there, and they seem to indicate they like the alternative better. But like I said, I don't have a strong opinion.
Thank you. Any other comment? Yeah, Councilmember Badami.
Well, I'm torn as well. I mean, I want to get this project approved tonight one way or another. This developer has worked diligently with the town, with the community, with stakeholders for several years, and it's really going to benefit our community in a number of ways. That also includes major improvements in fire safety, and it's been very responsive to council concerns, and even going back to 2022 when I first saw this when I was a council member, for which the mayor was also a council member, and I believe Councilmember Rennie as well. Regardless, I'm kind of torn between the two. I like proposal one better, but we do work with our community members. We want to make everybody happy, and if we don't feel strongly one way or another, I feel we could accommodate our resident. The applicant is amenable to the alternative design, but I will look to my fellow council members for more input.
So I wanted to comment on that. I do think that the alternate is an improvement in the sense that who's going to see it and how long and how much of impact will it have. And so while I think that the proposal was responsive overall, I do think that the 6-story in front of the residents at 135 and 121 caused some problems, and they're going to see it all the time, every day, whereas the impact of the taller height at the front in the proposal, I think that will in the alternate where that taller height will be at the front on Wood Road. I know people will see it, but mostly it'll be seen by people who are passing on North Santa Cruz and on Main Street and looking up Wood Road, but not residing right there. And so I think that I would go with the preference of the residents in the alternate proposal. It's not the 4 stories that they had hoped for, but I think for a lot of reasons, this is a very, very good project, and this is sort of a part of it that I think we have to consider. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, so it sounds like y'all are leaning towards the alternate. I'm totally fine with that, so I'll provide my general comments. So I'll just say that I think our older adult community really deserves this kind of housing. 211 new units or 209 new units specifically for older adults will be a significant addition to our housing stock and will help add or keep wonderful new or existing neighbors in our community. I think that the Meadows will do significant good for our community by providing housing for our aging population, creating opportunities for older adults to downsize and transition out of existing homes, constructing much needed supportive care units, bringing the home match program to Los Gatos and redeveloping a currently underutilized piece of land. I think to the fire concerns, I think that one major piece of this is that this will be redeveloping a dilapidated old wooden building into a much more updated and fire safe building. And to reiterate, there will be a second emergency access road. So further, I especially appreciated the letter that Front Porch provided to the town council as a desk item. As both the development team and my fellow council members know, the creation of affordable housing is something incredibly important to me. And while I understand that senior living communities are not required to construct below market rate units, as they're not technically considered housing, I believe that anyone who's doing business in the town of Los Gatos and building housing has an obligation to make an effort to positively contribute to our community. And so I think with this letter and the other efforts that Front Porch has mentioned and the Los Gatos Meadows has mentioned, I believe this project will be a very positive addition to our community. And so I, to sort of cement that letter in the in our business this evening, I would request that we include language provided from the town attorney that addresses the comment or the letter and creates or adds a condition of approval about converting those 11 units to BMR.
Thank you. If the council would like to, a general condition could be added to the end of the performance standards that are in the ordinance, and it could read, prior to issuance of the first building permit, the applicant agrees to implement the commitment to begin enrolling 11 market rate units at the El Sambroso Oaks Senior Housing Community in either the property-based or housing choice voucher program as described in its letter dated February 4th and included as a desk item.
Okay, thank you. I tried to write that down. I definitely didn't catch it all. I don't need to make the motion, but whoever wants to make the motion, I would request that is included.
Okay, and then while we're on the subject of conditions, I did have additional information for the council. The performance standards that are in the packet need to have the Parks and Public Works conditions added from the Planning Commission staff report. And so that will be done prior to this returning to the council for adoption. But I wanted the council to know that those conditions will be substantially similar to what was reviewed by the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Councilmember Badami.
I'll try crack at a motion. Got a little bit more complicated here. I move to adopt the draft resolution in Attachment 3 to make the required CEQA findings of fact in Attachment 3, Exhibit A, certify the final EIR in Attachment Number 2, and adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program in Attachment 3, Exhibit B, and introduce the ordinance in Attachment 4 affecting the zone change and approving plan development ordinance application PD-20-002 with modification of the proposed alternate design per Attachment 12 for a net loss of 2 units, and also adding the general condition and performance standards as recommended by the Vice Mayor and as quoted by our town attorney. That's my motion.
So I'll second it, but although I don't think those are two different things, I think.
I think they're all the same, and all I would do is add that the Parks and Public Works conditions from the Planning Commission staff report are part of the ordinance that's being introduced tonight.
Okay, great. And then to clarify, so the town attorney's exact language is in this motion?
Yes.
Great. Second.
Comments? I had one comment, and that is I want to thank everyone involved in this process for thinking about community, thinking about our older adult community, thinking about the residents, thinking about the residents who have to deal with fire hazard and all of the considerations that were made during this process are very much appreciated by our residents. This will be a fantastic addition to the town, and we really look forward to seeing this move to the next step and to be a reality. It is something that I know many of us have hoped would move forward, and I think it's moved forward in a very constructive way, and I hope that the last changes weren't too drastic, but it seems like we've been able to come to an agreement that will help the whole town. So I wholeheartedly support this and want to thank everyone. And I would like to particularly thank the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission hearings in both cases really went into a lot of the issues in a lot more depth than we did here, and we were able to rely on their judgment and their recommendation, including the recommendation to look at height-lowering alternative, and I think was very effective. And finally, to staff for doing a tremendous amount of work on this and being creative at the same time enforcing our standards here. So thank you for all of that, and I think we're about ready to take a vote. Yes, Councilmember Badami.
If I could just add one more comment. So in my years of being on the Planning Commission through being a town council member, which consecutively starting with the year 2013 to now 2025, I must say this particular applicant, it's been stellar. You bent over backwards to satisfy the community, make a project that work, and I mean, it was top notch. So thank you for working so hard. And I'm just so happy that you got the unanimous support tonight from all of us. Thank you for being part of our community.
Take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Do we need a roll call because we have a recusal?
No.
Okay, thank you. Then we are finished with this item. Congratulations. And we can move to the last couple of remaining things on our agenda. So our last couple items are council matters, and we were able to cover that quickly last time. I would encourage us to be quick again. I'll start with Councilmember Rennie.
Thank you, Mayor. On January 22nd, I attended the Silicon Valley Clean Energy Risk Oversight Committee. Also on 122, later in the day, I attended the Valley Water Commission. On 123, the next day, I met with Melissa from KCAT to talk about renewing their contract. On 127, I attended our new county supervisors swearing in for this district. And on 130, I met with the project team for La Rinconada Golf Course that are working on a redesign in their golf course.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I hope you all are hanging in there given the whirlwind that has been the last 2 weeks. I will first go through what I've been up to, and then I will close with a request of the Los Gatos Town Council. So I attended the Los Gatos Anti-Racism Coalition Town Hall, which was super productive and well attended, and I think really was a meaningful dialogue. I attended the town all-employee breakfast, which I always love. I really appreciate staff including the council in that, always a pleasure. I attended the Peninsula Division of the League of California Cities legislative address, where we heard from 5 of our state assembly members about what's going on in Sacramento. Like Councilmember Rennie said, I attended the swearing in of Supervisor Margaret Abe-Koga. I attended a Red Cross California Wildfires elected official briefing that was really, really helpful and productive, and talked a lot about the role of elected officials, local elected officials in communication, and especially not miscommunicating about when there's an emergency happening. I attended a VTA press conference for a new transit-oriented development in San Jose City Council District 2. Then I attended a Cal City's Impact of Immigration Orders meeting as well. So to my request, in my opinion, the actions of the new federal administration have been disruptive to our work in local government, to say the least. Specifically, the Office of Management and Budget Memorandum M-25-13 threatened millions of dollars in federal funding for the town of Los Gatos that we rely on. I believe we now have an obligation to respond to the concerns of our constituents about the direction of the new federal administration and how it will impact the services that we deliver to the community. I think attempts to bring sweeping cuts to our local funding, especially for projects that impact the safety of our community, are dangerous and destructive. Accordingly, I request that the Los Gatos Town Council agendize an item or schedule a study session for council to discuss and for staff to assess the impact of new policies coming from the federal administration on the town of Los Gatos and its residents, especially related to federal grants and funding for work including but not limited to vegetation management and infrastructure improvements. I will leave it up to the discretion of the mayor whether a study session or a regular item is more appropriate, but I believe some of the topics of this discussion could include our processes for responding to requests from federal agencies, updates from our partners at Santa Clara County, potential legal issues and risks of non-compliance with federal policies, identifying our major federal funding that the town of Los Gatos receives and or anticipates receiving this fiscal year and next fiscal year, and risks of loss of services. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. I think what we'll do is we'll hear from the other council members first and then come back to your request if you don't mind. Okay. Council Member Risto.
Thank you. And because I was recused on the last item at the last meeting and went home, I didn't cover council matters, but I'll try to keep this brief. As an alternate for Council Member Rennie, I attended the Silicon Valley Clean Energy Board meeting. And to start the year, we elected a new chair, which is George Tyson from Los Altos Hills, and a vice chair, Mayor Larry Klein from Sunnyvale, plus the executive committee. We thanked outgoing chair Tina Walia from Saratoga for outstanding work. In terms of the other work we did, we looked at community grant funding. To date, Silicon Valley Clean Energy has committed more than $15 million to grants supporting decarbonization and resilience projects in Silicon Valley Clean Energy communities. Member agencies are currently developing projects in response to the $10 million in funding that was announced in 2024. Silicon Valley Clean Energy and the City of San Jose were awarded a $12 million charging, fueling, and infrastructure grant. So at a high level, Silicon Valley Clean Energy and City of San Jose have been awarded this grant for fueling and infrastructure by the Department of Transportation. The CFI fund grant funds the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure available to the public. The chargers will support transportation electrification throughout the region and align with existing Silicon Valley Clean Energy EV charging programs. I know the town of Los Gatos is looking toward getting a grant to help with charging at our corporation yard. At the moment, with the new federal administration, this grant is at risk. I know that Silicon Valley Clean Energy, as well as town staff, will be monitoring this. The next week, I attended the VTA Policy Advisory Committee as the representative for the town of Los Gatos. We reelected Chair Martinez Beltran and from Morgan Hill, and we elected Vice Chair Elliot Scozola from Campbell. I've met with the Vice Chair to discuss alignment of our transportation priorities with regard to connecting Los Gatos and Campbell to see how we can work together. And we received an update on the county's bicycle superhighway plan. This is a plan to put together a lot of segments so that places of business, residences, shopping areas are broadly connected with low-stress bike commuting options where you might be grade separated or on a pathway or somehow make it more comfortable for people and separate motor vehicles. The overall plan helps to get smaller segments funded because they're part of the larger network. Relevant to Los Gatos, we have a couple of portions that are included in this superhighway, and that would be Bascom and Los Gatos Boulevard. I think it's about 8 miles of that road that would come down into Los Gatos all the way down to Blossom Hill Road. And the Union Pacific Rail Trail, so the soon-to-be abandoned railway that goes out to Cupertino, has the potential to be a trail. And there's also looking at, could that be VTA light rail connection for the West Valley. So all those things are being studied. And then the other part of the bike superhighway would be Blossom Hill Road. It's about 11 miles of Blossom Hill Road that goes off into San Jose. When it goes through Los Gatos, it actually would jog north to Los Gatos Almaden and then come down again so that you're not going over the hill where there is no bike lane. So it was great to get that update, and it will help us with this big plan to get funding for us to do our part of it. I did attend the Los Gatos Anti-Racism Community Town Hall, large number of people with a lot of engagement and concern across a lot of issues in our community. I enjoyed serving our employees at the all-employee breakfast. It was a great opportunity to chat with the employees, thank them, and just realize what a wonderful staff we have here and see everybody together enjoying themselves in the morning. I attended the Silicon Valley Peninsula Division Legislative Address in South San Jose, as did the Vice Mayor. We had an opportunity to hear from a number of elected representatives in the State Senate and the Assembly about what their priorities are for the year. I attended Supervisor Margaret Abaikoga's swearing in. It looks like we're going to have fantastic representation in District 1, and I think most of us already have a relationship with her, so we're in good hands. And this past Saturday, I was up at the JCC in Palo Alto. I was invited to a screening of a documentary called Blind Spot, and there was a panel discussion there to basically, the documentary covers college campus experiences of Jewish students, and particularly not only the rise in anti-Semitism in the last several years, but the spike that happened after last October 7th. It was incredibly sobering. One point I took out of that is it was brought up that a lot of times when DEI is discussed, the Jewish community is omitted, and I'm proud to say that that's not true in Los Gatos. And for those who were not able to make it, there's a plan to bring it down for a screening at the Los Gatos JCC. So when I find out when that is, I'll share that information. And then I had a large number of meetings, including with the Chamber of Commerce Executive Director, Los Gatos Little League President, members of the West Valley Muslim Association, the Chair of Complete Streets and Transportation, the leadership at Lowry Kanata Club, over a plan they're moving forward, the Executive Director of Safe Routes to School, and KCAT, among other things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Badami.
On January 21st, I participated in a board meeting of the Silicon Valley Animal Control Authority. I was appointed vice chair for 2025. On January 22nd, I met with Ryan Rosenberg of Los Gatos Thrives Foundation. On January 29th, I met with the executive director of West Valley Waste Management Authority. I forgot to insert the word solid waste. On January 29th, I participated in a meeting of the Council Policy Committee. Mayor Hudes was appointed chair, and I was appointed vice chair. That's all I have.
Thank you. January 22nd, I met with some members of the community concerning Builder's Remedy and SB 330 applications. I was able to participate in a little bit of the all-employees breakfast. I really enjoyed that. On the 24th, I participated in San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan's meeting of mayors, and I advocated for cross-community attention to wildfire and emergency services, and there was general agreement that that was something that we could work together on, in addition to a couple of other items. And that came up again at the Cities Association board meeting on the 30th, and that was the highest priority item for cities to work together this year. They'll announce some of the other items. I participated in the West Valley mayors and managers meeting in Saratoga, and again we spoke about wildfire and emergency preparation and some other things, and I learned about what's some things regarding housing that were happening in Cupertino. Again, the policy committee on the 29th, and that pretty much brings me up to today. I missed the movie on Monday, but looking forward to the next Los Gatos Thrives movie coming up. So with that, the request from the Vice Mayor fits with the policy that we have for requesting items on agendas. And so the process for requesting the agenda is prepared by staff in consultation with the mayor for the mayor's final approval, and the mayor makes the ultimate call on the agenda. Council members may submit a request through the town manager directly to the mayor to make a change or addition, and these items are not allowed to be talked about by more than 2 members. So hearing the detail, I agree that we should put something on the agenda that covers the concerns raised. I think there are some that may be more within the scope of what the town can do, and so I'm going to take the input from the vice mayor, work with the town manager to create an agenda, and then that will be listed for the view of the council. And if the council doesn't agree, then if 2 or more members want to make a change, they can do that, and it'll go on the agenda. But that's, I think, where we will go with that tonight. So appreciate having that, and look forward to doing that at our earliest opportunity. Yes, Vice Mayor.
First, thank you for that. I very much appreciate that. I wanted to clarify the town policy because I know this is in flux, and I'm fine with going this direction. But I wanted to ask staff what their opinion is if 3 council members agree with wanting to move forward with something proposed.
So the policy provides that items that have the mayor's agreement will be added to a future agenda automatically. It goes on to say if the mayor does not agree, the item shall be listed on the agenda for discussion purposes only under council matters. Council may then discuss whether or not to place the item on the future agenda for action.
Okay.
So, it sounds like the council will be definitely placing some aspects on a future agenda. And then if it's missing items that you wanted to discuss, I think those can be raised at a future council matters discussion.
Okay, got it. So question for the mayor. Or maybe for all of us. So this doesn't have to go, how you described it, Mayor, was putting it on a future agenda to discuss talking about it, but what I just heard from the town attorney is that with your agreement, it can just go on a future agenda. Is that correct?
The policy provides that when the mayor agrees, items are added onto future agendas.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
Okay,
So I guess that's a question for the mayor then.
Yeah, it's my plan to put it on a future agenda for consideration, and not as to whether we should talk about it, but as an item on a future agenda.
Okay.
If council doesn't feel that that is the request, then they're fair. Then they're welcome to get another vote and make a different request.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment. I appreciate this coming up. I mean, my first thought was, I appreciate that you, Mayor, look to see if it falls under our purview because it does impact us. In general, outside politics, what I like about being on town council is this is not a partisan position, and I like to stay within the bounds of what we have any control over or what we can do. But given that this past week, with some executive orders coming down that seriously threatened some of our funding, I appreciate our town manager immediately sent out an email, alerted us to what could be at risk, is already evaluating with our departments where we might have grants that are at risk. And I think this is a dynamic situation. So even if we have a meeting and discuss it, there may be constant changes, and I don't want to be reactive to this, but I think having it to discuss, we'll have an understanding of how do we stay up to date, what is the town's plan, how is the manager going to handle potential unpredictability with very serious funding sources that are essential to us. So thank you.
Yeah, and that's exactly the reason why I think we should have it as a council item, because it impacts services to our residents, and we really need to focus on that. Okay. So manager matters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My first item relates to the conversation you just had. On January 27th of this year, the White House Office of Management and Budget, this is the top budget office in the federal government, issued a memorandum directing federal funding agencies to temporarily pause the disbursement of federal assistance and report back to the Office of Management Budget on the impacts to their programs by February 10th. I mean, while this brief pause puts several of our grant programs at risk, I anticipate the federal government will continue refining its approach to realigning funding and possible criteria for funding or grant performance toward its evolving priorities. At this time, we will continue our grant-funded activities where we have executed grant agreements. Most importantly, the town will continue its progress in implementing its wildfire vegetation management grant program, which is a necessary piece to reducing fire fuels in our higher risk areas. This was something we were going to be accelerating here in February, but due to the rains, we have to wait till the grounds dry up a little bit before we can start that contract, but that contract is imminent in terms of executing moving forward. More to come as we see federal guidance that may impact the future and our current grant funding, or any other guidance that the federal government may put out that we need to evaluate. In terms of our wayfinding and signage project update, our contractor has started installation of the new wayfinding signs the week of January 27th. You probably could see some of them out there right now. The signs are focused within the downtown area along Highway 9, North Santa Cruz Avenue, University Avenue, Main Street, and the surrounding town parking lots. Installation is expected to continue for the next several weeks. New employee parking signs will also be installed as part of this project in the designated employee parking areas. The new parking signs will extend the employee parking from Monday through Saturday per town council direction. Staff and the contractor completed the final site walk this week to confirm the location of the new parking signs. Those signs are expected to be installed the week of February 17th, with enforcement commencing shortly thereafter. The mid-year commission recruitment is currently open. The deadline to apply is February 24th at 5 p.m. We are currently recruiting for the following seats: 2 short-term seats for the General Plan Committee, which expire December 31st of 2025 and December 31st of 2028. 2 short-term seats for the Personnel Board, which expire at the end of December of 25 and the end of December of 29. For the Planning Commission, 1 short-term seat expiring at the end of 2026. Interviews will be Tuesday, March 4th, which is a council meeting. Ahead of the council meeting, we're going to set the time based on how many folks are actually applying. Town administrative offices, and this is the last update. Town administrative offices will be closed February 17th in observance of President's Day. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you all. This meeting is adjourned.
Sorry, I wanted to announce the town council met in closed session earlier this evening, and there is no reportable action, and it was to discuss anticipated litigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to skip over you, town attorney. Councilmember Rennie.
I wanted to ask a question about the manager matters. I'm not sure how appropriate it is, but You mentioned the grants, and I wanted to understand better. We get a grant agreement, and then we go spend the money, and then we say we've spent the money, and they give us the money. If that's correct, is it possible then the government could say, sorry, you spent it, but we're not going to reimburse you?
It is possible. They could say, too bad, so sad, but obviously we have executed agreements, so there's an arrangement, and we relied upon those to expend those funds. We have one significant grant involving the Creek Trail. Apparently that money is not with the federal government now. It's not now with Caltrans, so there's not a belief that that money may be at risk. But again, in this day and age, I can't provide you any full assurance. What we're doing internally is we are looking at our grants and looking at our provisions of our contracts, and we'll be amending contracts where necessary to ensure if we need an out clause or some alternative, it's available to the town.
Okay, thank you. One other announcement that we will be doing our strategic priorities session on February 11th and welcome the public. So with that, this meeting's adjourned.